Hello everybody, how are you doing? Just an hour ago, it was announced that they are going to be making a live-action The Legend of Zelda movie with the producer who made some of the best and some of the worst Marvel movies ever. So, what better time to talk about Persona 5 Tactica? I don't know about you guys, but this game is coming out in about 10 days from this recording, and no one's really talking about it. I'm not really seeing many people talk about it. So I originally talked about this video alongside Persona 3 Reload back when it leaked, back in June. And at that time, I felt basically nothing about it. The original reaction video I made, it was 18 minutes long. 14 and a half minutes of that were talking about Reload. 1 minute was the outro. That is how little I felt about it. I kept calling it Tactica because, I don't know, I'm an idiot. The premise didn't interest me, the gameplay didn't really interest me. I didn't like how the character models looked. Specifically, I didn't like the proportions. I thought the arms were way too long. Same with the legs, they looked really thick. It just didn't work for me. But I decided, you know what, a month ago, I did that updated feelings video on Persona 3 Reload. Why not do one for Tactica, because that's coming out very soon. So, hey, let's go on through it. Much like last time, I got my pros, I got my cons, and I got some additional thoughts. And for the record, cons do not mean, they do not mean, I hate this. Con can mean a negative, or it could be a concern, or it could be anything, I don't know. Let's get into it. I'm gonna go over the pros first. One, rewatching the announcement trailer, something that hit me that I'm surprised took me this long to hit. I really like these colors, actually. They're super bright, they're saturated, it's super colorful. I don't know, just more so than a lot of other things. This just hit me and I was like, wow, this looks so damn good. I don't know why it took me this long to actually realize that, hey, these look super pretty. I love Lavenza as this old-timey blacksmith on a train. I think that is super creative. I also really like how the Velvet Room this time is like a train. I mean, in the past we've had elevators. We had the classic Velvet Room where it's just the red room. We had the elevator. We had limousine. We had a prison. We had a freaking dance club of all stuff. Why not a train this time? You know, I don't know how exactly it's gonna tie in. I mean, beyond there is kind of a fantastical time travel theme. It's like an Alice in Wonderland time travel across all of these worlds, really, but sure, why not? Why not? I love her little outfit. I love the little animations of her actually making the personas. I think it's neat. So even though I'm going over my pros right now, I'm gonna dip a little bit into my cons just so I can make the point about this pro. I'm still not feeling the character art style, the way the characters look. I don't really like how they are bringing this art style into 3D. I feel like in 2D, it would work a lot better. To me, it just kind of feels like a lesser PQ art style. I remember in that original video, I kept comparing it to Naoto Oshima. I think that's still a very, very good comparison. But another one I kind of come up with is Penny and Stocking, which kind of goes for a bit of a Japanese take on a Powerpuff Girls sort of art style. And I don't know, once these characters are brought into 3D, it's still just not working for me. I just don't care for it. But, oh look, there is some 2D animation, whatever. There's some of that in here, and the designs look great. It really is just when they're brought into 3D that I don't care for them. It's weird. I don't know what to say. I think these 2D anime scenes look great. Hopefully I can get used to the 3D. I don't know if I will, but let's hope. On another note, I really like how the gameplay mechanics from P5 are kind of being worked into Tactica in new ways. Ways that make them distinct and unique from the original P5, but still making it clear that this is that original mechanic. It makes sense. So, Baton Pass. Baton Pass in P5, of course, once you get a one more, you can then swap the turn and give it to someone else. Pass the baton off. Here, the Baton Pass works differently, where, at least from what research I can tell, you can swap out dead party members for the reserve ones. That still makes sense for Baton Pass. I think that works. It conceptually, it still works with the name, it still makes sense, but it's completely different, and yeah, it's cool. Surveillance cameras, also, that mechanic from P5, I wasn't super hot on it. I always thought it was kind of wonkily. implemented into P5. Here, I actually really like what they did. It's like a type of tile for the environment. So it's like a poison tile or something. Something that will cause a very specific reaction when you step on it. Sometimes you might want to step on it, or you might have to step on it, or you might, want to try and avoid it somehow. I think this is a neat little idea on how to take this mechanic that thematically works super well with the whole Phantom Thieves angle and make it work within a tactical strategy game, whatever the hell this genre is. It's tactics and strategy. I don't know too much about this genre, so I don't know what the difference is. To me, they're the exact same. One mechanic that is in here that I don't fully understand why they did it this way. Why are they calling All Out Attacks Triple Threat? Why did they give it a new name? Compared to like Baton Pass, this is basically the same mechanic. They just changed the name. Of course, it does work differently. The other mechanics work differently. But compared to like Baton Pass, this is basically the exact same. Like there's not that much difference between Triple Threat and a standard all-out attack. And I don't fully understand why they went and changed it. It's such a minor thing. It's just like a little nitpick. I don't get it. It's just me being weird. Okay, now here's something. This is probably the highest praise I can give this game. I love this sub-personas mechanic. It feels like the perfect compromise between classic Persona and new Persona. The whole idea, in case you haven't been paying attention, the whole idea of the sub-persona mechanic is you take the personas that you get, and then you can equip them to any party member, but they're not going to be using them like they're the main persona. Rather, it gives that party member that persona stats and their skills. So essentially, like you can equip a persona to on, a sub persona to on, and she will still be using Carmen, but she will have additional skills and stat buffs from a different persona. Narratively, within the new persona stuff, the whole wild card throws a wrench in the idea that anyone can have any persona. In classic Persona, anyone could use any persona within, there are limitations, of course, but anyone could equip whatever personas they wanted. And then they got rid of that with P3 because they were trying to simplify it and make it more accessible. And at the time, clearly it worked. But as time has gone on, I feel like it's not a limitation that really needs to be there anymore. And I think it's actually kind of silly. I think it's actually really restrictive. And it's something that I hope that in P6, they would go back to how it was with P1, P2. I doubt they will, because Persona is in a vastly different spot now that P6 is going to be developed by a completely different team. It'll be the first time they've done this since P3, but Persona is in such a different spot, I doubt they're going to give them that same freedom to just kind of completely shake things up and do things differently. That might be the cynic in me. It's genuinely kind of what I feel, what I believe. But this sub-Persona mechanic works perfectly, because it allows you to circumvent the narrative issue that is the wild card, but they're still only using the persona, the one persona that they have. I think this is great. This is great. If sub-personas work themselves into P6, oh my god, I'd be more than happy. That whole thing about me hoping that P6 goes back to anyone can equip whatever persona, I'd be completely satisfied. I'd be totally cool if this sub-persona mechanic was here. Think it'd be great. So now I'm going to move on to my cons, and I'm just going to come out with probably the harshest thing I have to say. I hate that it's just the core members of the Phantom Thieves. There is no Zenkichi, no Sophia. Kasumi and Akechi are relegated to that slimy Day 1 DLC, which I'll be getting to that in a minute. Why? I don't like that Atlas does this. It makes it feel like anytime a character that gets added in one of these spin-off games that canonically are sequels, they take place afterwards, but they're like characters that are super important, it makes it feel like these characters don't really matter, Anyone who's not in the OG P5 doesn't really matter. Kasumi and, also Akechi. Akechi was from the original P5, but Akechi ends up getting bundled in with Kasumi a lot. Kasumi it feels like she only matters when it comes to selling the day one DLC, and I don't like that. I really don't. Why not have Zenkichi and Sophia in this game? Unlike, say, with the investigation team, in the context of P5, if a character joins the Phantom Thieves, that's a huge freaking deal. That is like a huge deal within the overall context of P5. So when, you know, Zenkichi joins and he doesn't leave at the end, he doesn't go like, oh, I'm gonna quit, or he's not like Sophia where she's like, I'm gonna go with my maker and hang out with her for a while. Thank you guys, you've been great. Zenkichi doesn't actually get a moment where he's like, I'm quitting now. He doesn't really get that. He doesn't necessarily like, I'm moving to Tokyo, I'm gonna hang out with you guys, but you know, he doesn't formally quit. So why not have him here also? What I'm getting at here is give me my boy Zenkichi. I don't care if he's just a different flavored Dojima. He's rad as hell. Put him in the game. Hell, anytime they do one of these spinoffs, put them in the games that take place after that spinoff. I don't even know. So like in P4 we get Labris. I don't know if we're ever gonna see Labris again unless there's another freaking arena game. Why not have Labris in the dancing game? You know? Why not? Why not? I really wish that these additional characters who get added in the later games, I wish they mattered outside of that one game, you know? Especially when that game is like non-canon, or they do something like this where it takes place out of time and it's like exclusively fantasy. It's like a little, not a nitpick, but it's always something Atlas does with Persona that's always just kind of bugged me, you know? And of course, I gotta say it, fuck this day one DLC bullshit. Story DLC in particular. $20 day one for story DLC. Are you fucking kidding me? I really need to do a video about Atlas's horrendous DLC practices. It's insane. It is... it's so bad. It is ridiculous. If it was like costume DLC or like, oh, here's some personas, here's some additional personas that are like, here's, you know, Orpheus Picaro, you know, anything like that, then I'd be like much more okay with it. But it's the fact that it's story DLC is just so gross, and I hate that they do this, you know. I don't know. Some additional thoughts before I get out of here. I like this kind of time travel through the fantastical worlds idea. You know, this Alice in Wonderland-ass French Revolution, a very cartoony feudal Japan, a heavily graffitied city that's in that bullshit DLC. Honestly, the city actually kind of reminds me a little bit of the Colors Flying High intro. Specifically when it's all of the buildings and they're down on the ground. They're not when they're really big, destroying everything. It kind of reminds me of that, so it's a little fitting that Kasumi is going to be in that one. But it's day one DLC, day one story DLC, so fuck that. Gameplay is still very much XCOM, Mario plus Rabbids style strategy. I am not dying to play it, but I will say, after looking more into it, it looks fun. It looks fun. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I'm just glad that we can't look at this and say, oh, this could have been Devil Survivor 3, but they slapped P5 on it instead. No, this is clearly a very different kind of strategy game from Devil Survivor, so I'm much more okay with it. I'm not as upset of like, you could have done Devil Survivor, whining, you know, but hey, whatever. I feel nothing about this story. Going through all of this, I feel absolutely nothing. I'm really not interested in like these characters or anything. To me, I feel like I'm going to go into this game and I'm just going to be like, I'm going into this for the gameplay and not for any kind of story thing. There's nothing about this story that's really grabbing me at all, at least based on these trailers. I could feel different once I actually play it. Heck, I could like it more than Strikers, but I'm just not feeling anything right now, you know? To be fair, I never actually cared about the stories of any of the Persona spin-offs. Strikers is the only one where I actually cared about what was going on, but whatever. Honestly, I feel a little bad for Tactica. I feel like no one is really excited for this game. It feels like Atlas is just kind of putting it out there because there hasn't been a new P5 game in a while. It really feels like P3 Reload is the actual focus, and Tactica is just getting thrown out there because we need a new P5 game. And it looks cool, it looks fun. I'm sure it will review well. My buddy Riku, he is reviewing the game for Game Explain, and he put out a preview video, and I've talked to him a little bit about the game, and he's liking it so far. He thinks it's pretty good. But I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna play it. I'll probably like it. And then I don't know if anyone's really gonna be talking about it still once Reload comes out. I don't know. I've been wrong in the past. I mean, the freaking, what was it? The Morgana, here's how you play the game. Like, in one of them, he talks about the wind spell, the one that in SMT is called Zon, but in Persona, it's called Garu. I've always said Garu, but Morgana called it Guru.
For example, you can use Guru to blow enemies away.
So clearly I'm wrong. Another thing, apparently even P5, OG P5 is wrong because Haru's persona is not Milady or Milady or whatever you want to say, it's Milady.
Then follows up with her persona, Milady.
I literally yelled out, what? The second I heard the narrator say that. I was like, what the hell? No one corrected her on that. This game could be awesome. It could be cool. We'll see when it comes out in 10 days. I'm gonna go ahead and announce it here. I am gonna be streaming Tactica the day it comes out. Not at like midnight, but you know, later on in the day, probably like 2:30, 4, whatever time I end up getting going. I'm gonna be streaming it on the 17th. Check out my socials, Twitter, here on the community tab, whatever. I'm gonna be announcing whenever I go live. Or you could just go over to Twitch, twitch.tv/JBOMacca. Go ahead and follow me now so that you can be notified once I actually go live with the Tactica stream. Not this coming Friday, but the next Friday. Actually, this video is going up on Friday, so it'll be in a week. What do you guys think of Tactica? Do you think it looks great? Is everyone you see super excited? And am I just stupid? Am I just not looking at the right places? Is everyone actually super excited and I'm just super wrong? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're there, subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of my next upload. Make sure to check out my Patreon. Helps me out a lot. Before we go, in case you missed it in my last video, I am experimenting with a new short segment at the end of some of my videos where I recommend a comic book series or issue that I really liked and want to recommend. I like comic books, I like selling people on things, it'll only take a minute of your time, so please humor me. This video, I want to recommend not a single issue, but an entire series. Batman Superman World's Finest by Mark Waid and Dan Mora. One problem comic books often deal with is the insane amount of lore built up over decades of storytelling, but World's Finest is one series that doesn't suffer from this problem at all. While it does take place in the main DC continuity, it's entirely standalone and it takes place far in the past. Dan Mora is probably my favorite modern comic book artist, and he does a fantastic job making everything look so smooth, yet incredibly cool. Meanwhile, Mark Waid is the author of the critically acclaimed Kingdom Come, which is probably the best comic I've ever read. Every volume of World's Finest collects 6 issues made up of a complete 5-issue arc and a standalone story where they just do whatever the hell they want. One issue was dedicated entirely to Robin and Supergirl going on a date, and it's one of the best things I've read in years. I can't recommend this series enough. It's probably the best ongoing that I look forward to every single month. Give it a read and let me know what you think. I'm gonna go... What do you mean the game's already out? What do you mean Atlas accidentally put it up for sale early on Steam and they already fixed it, but people are still playing it anyway? Atlas wouldn't do something like this. This is not like them at all.